great to be here today. So wanted to talk today about how the world belongs to the builders. If anybody's seen me talk before, you know that I love software and I love building software. And I thought it's been interesting. I've been talking for years about how great it is to build software and how this is the best time ever to be a software builder. And I thought it was very interesting that recently Hollywood actually told the story of one of the most important events happening in the world of computers and software today. Nope, it's not The Social Network. Nope, it's also not The Imitation Game. Actually, the most important story in software was told by Hollywood in the Lego Movie. How many of you saw the Lego Movie? You all saw it? Oh, there's a free copy under your chair if anybody wants. Just kidding. Nobody wants DVDs anymore anyway. No, the Lego Movie is actually this parable telling the story of the most important thing happening in the world of software today. See, if you saw the movie, you know that they wake up in this world where everything is uniform. Everything is awesome, right? Everything is uniform. Every Lego is to be built in the way the instructions demand. Right? This is the orderly universe of the Lego world, because creating unique things would create disorder in the Lego universe, and that couldn't happen. And so you had this battle between the builders in the world of Lego, led by Emmett, the special, the master builder of all master builders, and Lord Business. Lord Business was the president of the Lego universe, and he demanded that every Lego be built only according to the instructions. This was his orderly world. And he banned all the builders. He said, builders, he imprisoned them. And they weren't allowed to build because they were wreaking chaos. They took the Legos apart and they built their own things. They created new creations. And this wasn't allowed according to Lord Business. And I was watching this movie. It's like, this is an amazing parallel to what we do in the world of software. And I think back to as a kid, loving playing with Legos. How many people here loved Legos as a kid? Right? And you think about, what did you do with Legos, right? Well, you started off, you built something, like usually the thing that came, it was on the picture, like you followed the instructions. Like that was the first thing you built, right? And then you get to play with it a little bit, and you go vroom, 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 and drive it around or fly it or whatever it was. Then you get bored of that, and you take it apart, and you build something entirely different. Right? And that was the process. And you could repeat this process really forever. And while you have these other toys that were like, you have the Millennium Falcon toy, like pre-made plastic, and you play with it a bit, and then you get bored of it, and it would sit in the closet, you didn't care about it anymore. Legos never got old, because you could keep taking them apart and reassembling them and imagining something brand new. Legos made every kid a builder. And this was so special as part of our youth. And that's why these toys, why Legos have had such longevity and popularity in our culture. Because what it brought out of us as kids was the joy of creating something new, the joy of creating something that has never existed before. That's what we got with Legos. And you know what? Building software is like this. Like many of you, I started writing software when I was a little kid. With BASIC on my Apple IIe, started figuring out this whole notion of like, I can build things that never existed. I can just imagine them and build them. And this is what software is all about. This is how I got started. That same fascination bit that is triggered by Legos gets triggered when we build software. But you know what? The parable in the Lego Movie is incredibly apt. Lord Business is alive and well today because you know what? Somewhere along the way, companies were told that they couldn't build software. It's like Lord Business was hanging over them, saying that you are not skilled, you are not capable of building software. You need to take the software as we build it, as we give it to you. I think this is probably best expressed as Lord Ellison, right? And this really bums me out. You actually talk to most companies out there in the world, and they say, we don't build software. We can't build software. That's not what we do. Right? It's not possible. But you know what? I kind of understand where they're coming from. Let's get in a time machine. Let's go back to the year 1990, right? Bill Clinton is getting elected president. We're all wearing our hammer pants. And you wrote your software in C, right? That was how you built software. We are third generation languages. You wrote C, you did all the memory management. You had a lot of building to do in order to build. And not only were you building in C, you were using waterfall to do it. So this was very high risk, high stakes software, if you will. So yeah, back in 1990, it kind of sucked. But you know what? The vendors then gave you an option. They said, well, you know what? You can build or you can buy. Right? Lord Business says, why would you go through all that pain? You're not a software company. We're the software company. You're just going to buy it from us. And then they actually encoded in the language of business all these smart ideas. Things like outsourcing what isn't core to your business. That sounds like a really good idea. Oh yeah, we're not a software business. You outsource that to Lord Ellison, right? And these other things, like don't reinvent the wheel. Why would you reinvent the wheel? You're an idiot if you reinvent the wheel. Oh yeah, you're right. I'm a smart business person. I outsource what's not core, right? And this is where companies stopped building software. They let Lord Ellison convince them that they didn't have to. In fact, the message that they internalized as companies was it's bad to build. It is unwise. It is a path to getting a new job, a new career path, right? And so they said, we don't build. And a funny thing happened, though, in the interim, right? Maybe 15 years ago, right? Along comes Agile Development, right? And we as software people now know that big monolithic products aren't predictable. Big monolithic projects that take 2-3 years, millions of dollars, hundreds of programmers, not predictable at all. Not predictable in what you can deliver, how fast you can deliver it, how much you can deliver it for, or whether or not, if you actually delivered it, you'd be solving the correct problem as it exists 3 years from now, right? So we figured out small milestones are predictable. We ship every 2 weeks. We're constantly iterating, constantly getting closer, but knowing that what we need to do is actually always changing. And so these small iterations get us there quicker and allow us to serve our customers. In fact, Agile Development is so successful, we have wholesale bought into it. Pretty much every software building company in the world uses Agile. It is that clear cut. And in this world of Agile, you know that you start by building, and then you release something, and then what you do is you go get feedback, and you revise it, and you build again, right? This is what we call sprints, right? You keep doing this. Look familiar? It's just like how we played with our Legos. Build, release, revise. But you know what? Lord Business can't have this. Meanwhile, Lord Business is saying, here's how the process should work. You start with an RFP. You pretend that you know all the requirements up front. Submit those RFPs to the vendors, then you sign a contract with the vendor you pick and you cut them a check. And then armies of professional services people show up and they go and they implement that and they deliver the thing that you said you needed at the very beginning. And then of course you repeat the process. Oh, never mind. You stop. All those professional services people go home and you're stuck with the software you have, right? That's the process that happens when we buy software. We're not able to iterate, right? It's a one-shot process. And we know this doesn't work. And then they got even smarter. They said, oh, you know what? You just bought one software product from us. Great, why don't you buy more, right? You have your databases with us. Why don't you put your financials on us? And your marketing and your thing. And they make it seem almost like Legos, but in fact, it's not Legos, it's a puzzle, right? And it kind of looks, it masquerades, like puzzles kind of masquerade as Legos, but there's only one way the puzzle can go together, right? Sure, you can take it apart, but every time you put it back together, you get the exact same thing again. And that's how big software kept saying more and more and more, you have to put them together, put them together in the pre-described way. And this has been the state of software, just like Lord Business wants it in the world of Legos. But meanwhile, you talk to CEOs, and survey after survey, Harvard Business Review, PricewaterhouseCoopers, every single one of these surveys of CEOs of huge companies, their number one priority is innovate all the things. Right? Innovation is the number one priority, and they say we have to innovate, we have to out-innovate, yet in the back of their head, they have all this FUD from big software telling them they can't do it. And so when actually innovative projects come up, they say, oh, that sounds pretty risky. I don't know if we can do it. And the problem is what's happened over the last 20 years is companies have mortgaged their futures by believing they can't build. Right? One of my favorite examples here is when Toys R Us outsourced their e-commerce to Amazon. You remember that? They said, oh, e-commerce, right? That's not core. Operating these stores is core to our business. We're just going to let Amazon do that retail. Well, we all know how that ended, right? You mortgage your future if you're not investing in building, right? And so this build versus buy decision that the vendors put on you to try to tell you you're an idiot is a false dichotomy. It's always been about what to build and what to buy. That's the true decision, right? Going back as far as you can, take a look. This is silicon dust. Somewhere the silicon is dug out of the earth and ground up and made into wafers, and that's where it all begins, right? So unless you say, hey, it's our job, we're gonna go build our own silicon manufacturing facility and grind our own wafers and all this kind of stuff, no, you're always buying something and building something. The question is, what is that, right? So going back, we started with transistors in the 1940s, right? And then we moved, you CPUs and RAM, you started to get the modern computer, you programmed it with assembly, right? Then we had C, right? C, the first third generation language, or the most important one at least, where you could actually write code and it compiled the assembly language for you. And think about it, at the time C came out, a lot of smart people were saying, you can't have a compiler do that work for you, right? I have to do my own assembly code. That's the only way it's going to work the way I want it to, right? That sounds crazy today, but the world keeps going. Now you get fourth generation languages like Ruby, right? Then you get Ruby on Rails. You don't even have to manage your database connections or your web infrastructure or anything like that, right? And then finally you get Heroku, right? Platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, software as a service, right? And this is the state of where we are today. And this line, as we've progressed, has always basically split between what's the baseline, below which we buy, and above which we build. And this line has just slowly marched up and up and up as we've composted the layers of technology below and made them unimportant. And this has been the march of technology over the last 50, 60 years, right? Sorry, 75 years. And at every stage, the lower layers become undifferentiated and we buy them, and it's our job to differentiate by building on top of it. In fact, you can kind of look at Moore's law, right, and the number of transistors increasing as it has, and you'd say, well, gosh, how much faster could Microsoft Word actually get, right? And I think a lot of people, myself included, when you heard about Moore's law in the 1990s, you were like, oh my God, like Microsoft Word is going to be like really fast. Like it's as slow today as it was 25 years ago on my computer, right? That's not how we've used Moore's law. We haven't made our software faster. We've traded efficiency for agility. We took all those transistors and we build platforms on top of platforms and abstractions on top of abstractions in order to make software more and more powerful. We've used Moore's law to simplify implementing very complex systems. That's how we've used it. And this enables us to build, because we have all these really high-level constructs now that make us into builders that they didn't have 25 years ago when the myth of we don't build software was born. So if you can build, do you have to? That's a good question. Oh, okay, we can build everybody. Let's just go build everything, right? Well, not what I'm saying, but if you take a look at the stack, right, 2015, here we are, software as a service is the current state of affairs, right? And services are the most accessible form of software we have ever seen, right? A Fortune 500 company can be using the exact same software as a two-person startup or a law firm in Akron, right? The exact same software is used by both of those organizations. And so now it's even more important than ever that we understand this line, because the baseline of this really powerful software applies to every single company on the planet. Every single company. Every single company is sitting up here, able to access the most powerful software on the planet for a few dollars a month. Every single company. So if SaaS is the new baseline, then APIs are really becoming the new building blocks, right? So it's not the fact that you use the topmost layer, it's what you do with that layer that is important to your business. And it's never been a better time to build. And this is critically important because not only has it never been a better time to build, because of all the advanced infrastructure we have, it's never been more critical to build, because that startup uses Salesforce just like you do. A startup has ERP just like you do. A startup has great customer support software just like big enterprises do, right? And so I don't think it's a matter of building versus buying, right? At the extremes, I think we've always had companies who really thought about it in that binary way. Building, it's like Google. Yeah, they're going to build like AI brains in the cloud. You're like, yeah, I get it. Like they're extreme on the build. But you need so many PhDs in order to make that happen. And then the extreme other side, when you want innovation, you can cut the check for $50 million and buy all sorts of services to try to force innovation. But in the middle, this is where the vast majority of nearly every company is going to live, where you build some and you buy some. And what you really end up with in the middle is this world of composing. Composing these bits that you buy together into the unique differentiated solution that makes your company differentiated to your customers, right? So when you think about composing, it's building on top of these lightweight services, putting them together in unique and novel ways, right? Look at the modern software toolkit. You can provision computing, workflows, developer tools, payments, communications, all on the fly, right? For like dollars and in minutes. You can pull these things together. And now what are you going to do with them? That's what matters. So let me give you a neat example. I love this example. Coca-Cola. You would think a 100-year-old sugar water company is about the furthest thing from, builders. But an amazing thing happened. They have 600,000 vending machines across Europe. And they have a problem, right? Every day, some number of these vending machines break. They die, right? Like the compressor dies, something goes wrong, and they just die. And the customers walk in and they get warm cola. That's about the worst thing that can happen, I imagine, if you're Coca-Cola, or at least as a beverage drinker. And so they used to have this process where the store owner, where the vending machine was, would have to fax in an order form. The customers complained, you'd fax in an order to get it repaired, and eventually someone would come, and it was this horrible process. So what do? They put 3G modems into all the vending machines, uploading diagnostic data about what's going on in that vending machine up to the cloud. And where do they put it? Well, they put it in Salesforce. So they have this API endpoint in Salesforce, logging it all to a database, going there. Then one of the developers on the team had this neat idea. The developer said, hey, I wonder if I can plug in Twilio to automatically text a repair technician who's nearby that broken vending machine and have them go repair it immediately. And this developer spent 2 days and had this solution up and running. An automated email or automated SMS goes out to the technician, dispatching them to go take a look, and then an automated SMS goes out to the store owner saying, hey, your refrigerator, you don't even know this yet, your refrigerator is about to die. We have sent a repair technician to fix it for you, right? There is no pre-built solution from Lord Ellison for automating the repair of broken cola vending machines. There's no vendor you can go to get that. But here we are in this composable world where a developer was able to pull that together in a couple of days. And you take a 3G modem sold by somebody, and Salesforce, this process automation in the cloud, and then Twilio, communications in the cloud, and plumb these APIs together, and in a few days get this magical solution that makes it so the cola is always cold. And the Pepsis, by the way, are always warm, right? So we think this leads to the formation of this composable enterprise. This is how this scales. Companies are going to continue making build versus buy decision, but they're going to buy at this very high level, and they're going to buy much smaller building blocks. They're not going to buy what Lord Ellison is selling, they're going to buy composable bits. And in fact, they're going to integrate these building blocks together into a way that uniquely defines the experiences of that company. And that becomes competitive advantage, right? And composable enterprises will fundamentally believe that building is the only way to differentiate. And that today, that means building for composability. No more puzzle pieces, No more, you're not allowed to take it apart. No more, you can't customize it without the army of professional services, right? Legos. Building with Legos is the way this is going to work. And I think what you end up with is not a world where it's build versus buy, it is just flat out build versus die. Because companies that don't keep up with that rising bar of technology are going to become obsolete. The world will belong to the builders. I firmly believe that. So be the special. Go out, build something. That's what we're here to do. Thank you very much.